Looking to get permanent residency in Australia? Today I'm going to talk about all the possible pathways how you can get into Australian permanent residency. In most of the occasions, people ask, what's the best way to get to Australia? What documents do I need? I'm going to talk about the pathways. So how you can be qualified to get into Australian permanent residency, maybe eventually the citizenship as well. So my name is Suriyapa. I'm an Australian registered migration agent here from Cirrus Migration. And we frequently put out these videos through Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. So if you have any questions, you can always pop your questions, and I can try answer it within the given time periods. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please hit the subscribe button or the bell icon or the like button, whichever the platform you're coming from. That way you'll be notified every time we put up a breaking news or a special announcement through Australian immigration changes and new visas that comes through, or the policies and procedures. So without taking much time, I would like to go into permanent residency pathways. So let's put up the pathway channel. Mainly I would like to talk about if you come as a student, as a in a student visa 500, what's the pathway? Normally people get into student visa, then for them to get qualified to get skills assessment and also to get qualified for the work experience part. Once you completed the course, you can, at this stage, you can go into 485 post-study work visa or the graduate visa, depending on the stream you're currently studying. Once you complete your while you're in the 485, you can then look into other options. Mostly people look into general skill migration, business visa, general skill migration, or employee nominated schemes. If you like the person as in the chart down below, if you are a qualified person, the straight pathways are general skill migration. You have different streams, 189, 190, 491. I'm pretty sure we have put out a lot of videos explaining what are these areas, and Ashani puts a live video every Friday in the evening about general skill migration and how to be qualified. And the next stream is this is about general skill migrations, mostly about people between 18 and 45 years of age, scoring 65 points or above, and they need to have general English level of competent English, so IELTS 6 or PTE 50 and above. And then the next stream is with the general skill migration. Again, before I move on to the next topic, you don't necessarily need to have work experience, but work experience gives you points and incentives. There are many videos we've done about it, and Ashani is going live even today at 4:30, I think. And you can find out more information about these videos and these categories through those videos. So if you haven't got much of an idea, it's a good time to go back and review our videos. They're stored in YouTube channel as well. Then if you have not much, if you have a lot of business skills, business experience, business and investor visa is for you. So if you have at least few years worth of business operating skills, and depending on certain turnover requirements and the asset requirements, you don't necessarily need to have English for this category at this stage, or you don't necessarily need to have high academic qualifications. With business, they look at how skillful you are as a businessman or an investor. So 188A, 188B, 188C, those visas will qualify you into 888A, 888B, 888C permanent residency visas. Again, we've done a lot of videos, but at this stage, this visa program is on hold. Hopefully, we expect it to go live on the next financial year, 2023-4, and Australian financial year starts on 1st of July, which is not far away. So if you're a skillful business person, stay tuned. You might have a permanent residency pathway through some of the business visa categories. And again, with the business visas, qualifying age is again 18 to 55 at this stage. If there's any changes to be introduced from the government, we will get to know about it very soon on 1st of July or soon. Next category is the employee nominated category. So there are many pathways. We have discussed this in many programs as well. We will break it down again. ENS, employee nominated scheme. Depending on your level of skills and English, you may have direct pathways or indirect pathways. Indirect pathways are 407, 482 and 494, depending on your occupation and your level of skills and where your employer is from. Minimum English requirement for most of these categories are 5 other than 186, and 494 or 5 means vocational English, or employee nominated schemes can have different pathways to permanent residency. So you need to have the relevant work experience and relevant academic qualifications, or enough work experience to substitute the academic qualifications. So 482, 494, and if normally for 482 you need to have at least 2 years of work experience. If you don't have it, through 407 you can get to permanent residence, get to 482 through 482 building up your experience in Australia through 407. 407 is a training visa which allows you to be qualified and gain that work experience while you're in Australia, but it doesn't have a direct permanent residency pathway. You need to go through a 482 or 494 visa first, but 494 requires 3 years work experience. So if you don't have enough work experience, 407. But if you have over 3 years work experience plus the sufficient academic qualifications and IELTS 6 in each band, or Competent English, which is IELTS 6 in each band, or PTE 50 and above in each band, with a skills assessment, you may want to consider 186. But most importantly, employee nominated scheme is for people who has been offered a job by an employer who's willing to sponsor you. So even though employee nominated scheme is not a point tested visa, you must have an employer who's willing to sponsor you. So unlike general skill migration, it's not an invitation only application. So if you think you have enough qualification, you can put up your visa application straight away. You don't have to wait for an invitation to come through, or you don't have to satisfy a point test. Again, 482 doesn't have a work limitation, but 186 only allows you to apply for permanent residency through work experience and your qualifications through ENS, only up to 45, unless you go through a DAMA program, designated area migration arrangement. Some of the occupations in certain areas gives you permanent residency pathway until you become 55. So it depends on your occupation and who's got which DAMA program. Employee nominated schemes are very popular these days. There are so many incentives, and the program is very fast. We've been receiving visas within matter of weeks. So it's been very much streamlined and an expedited process at the moment. Again, another permanent residency visa access is Global Talent Independent. We have been very successful with many cases. Global Talent Independent Visa allows people, there's no technically an age limit, but if you're below 18 years or above 55 years of age, we have to show significant benefits to Australia why they should invite you. This is an invitation only application process, so you need to put up an expression of interest first. Once your invitation's through, or if you get invited, then you can apply for the visa. It's one of the streamlined, very quite fast way to get into the permanent residency. But with the Global Talent Independent, you need to go through the expression of interest stage. So it allows you to apply for this visa category through 10 different talent categories. I have done many videos through this on this subject, so you can go read them again. You need to be nominated by an Australian company, or a Australian permanent resident, or a citizen, or a qualified New Zealand citizen. Through this category, you don't necessarily need to have a specific level of English or specific level of academic qualifications, but what they're looking at is the global exposure, your knowledge and your experience internationally. So Global Talent Independent again is another way to get into permanent residency. Again, certain visa, refugee and protection and humanitarian visa categories allows you a pathway to permanent residency as well, and for you to be qualified as a refugee, you need to demonstrate the right grounds that you're a qualified refugee, and you have to prove that you're a UNHCR recognized refugee. So it also allows you permanent residency pathways. And then we'll go into the family visas. Family visa allows you different pathways again: parents, a partner, child, remaining relative, and carer visa. Parent visa, if your family's got at least 50% of your family's got permanent residency. So let's say, for an example, if you have three siblings in your family, out of three, two of them are Australian residents or Australian permanent residents or citizens, then you can apply for your parents to become an Australian permanent resident. So depending on the parents' age and the visa application process, you can apply for many different permanent residencies through these categories. So visa subclasses are displayed there. Some of the visas takes time. Some of the visas are contributory, so you have to pay a large substantial amount of money at the second stage. And also some of them, depending on the parents' age, if they classify that as age parents, they have permanent residency pathways through there. But it'll be processed faster. And then you got partner visas. If your partner or the person you're willing to look into get married to is an Australian resident or a permanent resident, then you can be nominated by your partner to apply through the spouse visa. So that's another pathway, depending on whether they're onshore, whether the partner is onshore, offshore, you're currently married, or you're expecting to get married, then your initial pathway is different. If you're an Australian citizen or a permanent resident already, and if you have a child overseas, you can also apply for child visa. And the next category, remaining relative visa, is for people who's matured, pretty much the whole family is here and you're the only one left out in a different country, and then you can apply for remaining relative. But you have to be careful if you're applying for remaining relative. Even if you're married and if your spouse has got relatives, then they count as relatives as well. You might not be qualified, so it's always good to get a proper advice from a migration agent or a qualified migration advisor before you consider this category. Only the downturn I see through this remaining relative categories. The visa is very visa takes a while to get processed, so it's over 10-15 years. I think current processing time is over 15 years. A carer visa, if you're having permanent disability, or if one of your family members have a permanent disability, and if you currently facing issues looking after that family member or yourself, then you can apply for a carer visa for another family member who may currently live overseas to come and care for you. So they're the main categories for permanent residency or PR in Australia. So I will probably also take a bit of time before I explain any further to go through some of the questions and answer some of your questions. Before I start answering the questions, I would like to pinpoint you to pick up one of the questions that I got through yesterday through to us. I think it's a very good question. So I will just bring it up. So the question was from Carl Vijay. We had a visa grant for an accountant from medium to long-term list yesterday for a 482 visa, and we put it up in social media just to educate everyone that we had a success, and also to share our happiness through the grant. So when we put it up, one of the social media fans has given us a bit of a feedback. This is from Carl Vijay. He's asking about our 482 visa grant. Wow, congratulations, but why is the visa granted for 2 years instead of 4 years, since this occupation is in the medium to long term skill list? This is a very good question that you ask, and we often get asked this question by many people. So with medium to long term, as it is now, Honourable Minister has announced something coming up for next incoming months for the short-term skill occupation lists and medium to long-term skill occupation lists. But for the time being, long story short, as it stands now, medium to long-term lists allowed to apply for work visa 482 for 4 years, whereas short-term skill occupation listed occupations are only allowed to apply for 2 years. And medium to long term also has an option to apply for permanent residency at the end of their term, unless they're in medium to long term. Short term listed occupations cannot apply for permanent residency unless they go through 494 in a regional area. So going back to this specific question, why the applicants got only 2 years visa grant, it's because the employer has the option to nominate the person for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year or 4 years. So it depends on their work requirement, and also that way they're not committing themselves for long, and also it allows the clients other visa options as well. This client may have other option to apply for 189, 190, 491, that sort of skill visas, and also, or maybe she's already got 2 years, she's getting another 2 years of 482, halfway through she's eligible for 186 direct entry category, so she doesn't have to wait or waste 2 to 3 years more of the work visa. And also it saves them If they're planning to apply for 186 half away, then they don't necessarily have to have 3 years. They don't necessarily have to have 4 years of visa grant, because once you get 4 years of visa grant, for you to get that visa grant, you need to have the skill levy paid for 4 years as well. So some people save a bit of money through that in skill levies. So I don't know if I explained this properly to you, but in reality, medium to long term visa applicants also can have 2-year visa applications, because they can only because they only requesting for 2 years. And one of the reasons why they do it is the employer's side. Employers save a lot of money. I mean, save half of their skill levy. That can be a substantial amount. I think it's $1,800 per year. So they're saving about $3,600. Or they can foresee a permanent residency pathway halfway. So with this client, actually, she's got a 186. The employer and employee both agreed that they will seek for 186 direct entry category halfway through. So they only need 1 year, because she's got completed 482 the student visa and 2 years work experience. Now she's eligible for 482, because she's done 500 student visa, went and did the 485 once. During the 485 period, she was continuously working as an accountant through this firm, and they found her as a exceptional skill. So student visa, 2 years, 2 years of work visa. Now she's eligible for 482. Now she's got the 482. Being in 482 for a year, she's eligible for 186 with a skills assessment and the competent English. So that's how they did it. So I'll take a couple of questions through YouTube. Harsha Pandya, my daughter is doing psychology in a clinical science space of PR. Thank you, Harsh. Congratulations, she's doing psychology, which has many pathways. Please be in touch. So we need to know a little bit more about her age, English, qualification, where's the qualification from, and that sort of information, and also work experience, etc. So the best way to be in touch with us is send us a CV with summarizing all this information to admin@cirrus.com.au, so we can shortlist her. We can list her up for an appointment to talk to one of our agents one-on-one and explain what are the options that she may have. Emmanuel, what's the actual requirement financially for business visa? Emmanuel, very good question. Right now 188A visa is on hold, so I can tell you what's available right now, but it might not be what's required on 1st of July, because by the time they start this program, there'll be a different requirement. Right now the requirement is you need to have at least $750,000 worth of turnover within last 4 years for at least 2 years, and then you need to have at least $1.2 million worth of assets in between yourself, your wife, yourself, your spouse, and your business. So your net asset worth has to be at least $1.25 million. They're the financial requirements as it stands now. It might change a little in coming months when the next program starts, but we will endeavor to put up a new video explaining all that as soon as it's been announced and legalized. So good question. Thank you for asking that question. John Karam, what are the chances of the 190 offshore visa? John, right now 190 is going 190 is in very high demand, and there's a lot of invitations being extended to offshore clients. So I think it's a very good opportunity if as long as you meet the requirements. Don't wait. Make sure you got a skills assessment ready, and compete an English or above. Claim your points properly, and go ahead and lodge the application. So if you like, we can help yourself too. We charge a flat once-off fee for all the 189, 190, 491 applications, and we can also help you through the skills assessment if required. So that's one of our services that we offer. But if you already got it, good luck with it all, and you can do it yourself. 9 Dias, bit outside of the normal discussion that we have today. Today is all about permanent residency pathways. Of course, you can apply for permanent visit visas. Visit visas, the main things that they look at is what's the relevancy of your traveling to Australia? Are you a genuine temporary entrant to Australia? And what's your prospects of returning back to your country, and what financial, family, and other commitments you have back home in your own country. So I'm about to conclude the session very soon, but I'll take up questions up to Varshika Pasam. And until then, I'll just answer your question. So Nimantha Sudara, I have been working in aged care for more than 2 years. I have certificate 4, and I asked my employer to sponsor me. If they sponsor me, when I can apply for PR? Very good questions, Nimantha. There are few pathways available for aged care workers, especially who has completed aged care certificate 3 and 4. For me to explain, it's going to take a bit of time. I would invite you to join our program. Send us your information, and we will offer you a one-on-one meeting explaining all the requirements and your eligibility. And we are expecting to put up a video just on aged care sector very soon. And if you have the sufficient English, and if the employer is willing to support you, I think you'll have a very good permanent residency pathway. Or even by yourself, if you're hitting the points, you might have good prospects of applying the general skill migration, depending on where you stand there too. So Harsh's daughter is 18 years old, from India. PT score 78 or 7.8, because there's no such point test called 7.8, or maybe 78. So as I said, send us the information. We'll give you a customized advice for her pathway, or you can contact our Indian office as well. Mudit Fernando, what are the chances for software engineers 491, 75, depending on which state, Mudit, but 75 is very close. 80 is what's normally required. But yeah, so you can try. You never know. If you got 75 by yourself, that means 90 total, or if you got 75 in total, then you might be almost there. But 75 points also is good for but 75, it'll be 189, it'll be 60 if it's by yourself. So software engineers in very good demand at this stage as well. Varshika Pasam, I have skill assessment in taxation, accounting and living in Perth, sitting at 70 plus 15491. Another option is sponsoring from Perth, retail manager 494. Which one is better for me? I have worked part-time as an assistant manager in retail action, no experience in accounting. I guess, Varshika, the good thing with 494, you don't have to go through a point test, and you don't have to live in a limbo without waiting for an skills assessment. If the employer is willing to sponsor you, I think 494 would be a better option for you, rather waiting for accountants invitation. And also that way you have a permanent pathway anyway, as long as you work with your current employer for 3 years. So I'm going to jump in to answer a few questions through TikTok media as well. Is a local university BBA degree enough to apply for accountant positions? Dushan Seniviratna, of course, as long as you have a reputed university's bachelor's degree plus 1 year work experience with all the evidence, that's sufficient enough for your skills assessment. Then again, if for you to see if the university of the BBA degree is qualifying, we can support you through the recognized universities and those requirements too, if you want to share your information with us. Kingoji, please, how do I get the skills assessment done? Skill assessment, depending on the occupation, for the skills assessment, there are different requirements. Certain degrees, like certain qualifications like civil engineering or the engineering qualifications, social workers qualifications if they in accredited graduated from an accredited university, and certain courses, advanced diploma courses like civil draft person, mechanical draft person, etc. If you completed one of those degrees, you don't necessarily have to go and have work experience. Other than that, you need to have at least 1 year work experience. Certain skills authorities requires you to go through at least 2 years work experience. So if you have the enough eligibility, then you can apply for it. If you need any support, we can support you. We can also support you get through to support you with your skills assessment for a small fee. So if for you to see if you're eligible for the skills assessment, be in touch, send us your CV and set up an appointment. We'll talk to you one-on-one. So I'm going to wrap up the session for the day. It's been a long session, more than expected. I have a few more questions that I might have missed, but if you'd like to get more information about the program or the session, please send us an email through admin@cirrus.com.au if you think you're eligible, and then if you have an eligibility, we'll definitely get back to you and set up an appointment one-on-one with you to discuss the proper migration pathway, whether it's through interim visa category or directly into the permanent residency. All our information to contact us is right there. If your email is not getting responded in fast enough and your inquiry is urgent, pick up your phone, call +61 13,000 74787, which is 13,000 Cirrus. That's the fastest way to get hold of us, and we'll be able to set up an appointment with you and take up your support with your inquiry straight away. And it's lovely to have you all there and answer your questions. I would love to come back and answer some of the questions very soon. In first Thursday of coming month, we'll have our normal live session. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, make sure, whether it's YouTube, Facebook or TikTok, follow us, subscribe us, so you'll get to know as soon as we put up this information. And thank you very much for joining us again. Hope to talk to you soon.